Hello, everyone. It's such an honor for me to be here tonight to help introduce one of my favorite people in the world, Nancy Kwan. Some of you may already know that we are related. Nancy's grandfather and my great-grandfather were first cousins, which I believe makes us second cousins 3 times removed. Or is it 4? Anyway, that's just math. Let me tell you what it was really like for me to share a surname with her. Growing up in Singapore, long before I ever met her or even knew who she was, I kept hearing the name Nancy Kwan, chanted by relatives. If I recall correctly, her name was always used as a standard of comparison because I would hear comments like, that actress is not as pretty as Nancy Kwan. Or her name would also be used to explain the more rebellious members of our family. For example, she went to art school in London and dyed her hair purple. You know, she's one of the artsy ones, like Nancy Kwan. Then finally one night, when I was around 7 or 8, there was great excitement in the house because a movie was being broadcast on Singapore TV for the first time in years. I remember my entire family gathering around the big color TV that was my grandparents' room. I was a bit grouchy being forced to watch anything that was a Knight Rider, but then the movie came on and it was Flower Drum Song. I remember being so surprised that there were all these Asians on screen and they were talking with American accents and behaving more or less like Americans. About 15 minutes into the film, there was a musical scene in a nightclub, and this woman emerged from behind a cluster of fans singing Fan Tan Fanny. And my grandfather proudly said, "There's Nancy." My grandmother commented, "She has the Kwan look." My jaw dropped. This beautiful, glamorous lady dancing around was our cousin? She was the Nancy Kwan I'd heard so much about. I was utterly transfixed. And that night, I fell in love with her just like millions of other people did decades earlier when she first appeared on the big screen in The World of Susie Wong. At that time, I was too young to understand truly what Nancy Kwan meant to others. She belonged not just to my family. She was one of the first Asian women in popular culture that Asians around the world could be proud of. She shattered all the stereotypes. She was the leading lady who would star billing next to Hollywood legends like William Holden and Glenn Ford. She had her hair cut by Vidal Sassoon and it became an international sensation. She was on the cover of Life magazine. She won a Golden Globe. She was the first Asian global superstar. She inspired a whole generation of women in the 1960s to be sassy and brave, to be themselves. She was cool. Looking back, I think having this cool cousin as an example so early in my life influenced me in ways that I'm only beginning to understand now. Seeing Nancy on the big screen left an indelible mark. She showed me that I could have a creative life too. She showed me that I could celebrate my culture and my experiences and write a book about a crazy family in Singapore and not care about the consequences. Flower Drum Song was the first major Hollywood motion picture to feature an all-Asian cast. That was in 1961. I never imagined that 57 years later, I would be involved with a film that would become the 3rd major Hollywood motion picture to feature an all-Asian cast. Only the 3rd, but look how far we've come in just a few years. This Lifetime Achievement Award to Nancy Kwan is long overdue, but tonight, we celebrate her for inspiring all of us, yesterday, today, and for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce Nancy Kwan.
Compared to Audrey Hepburn and called the Chinese Bardot, the Hong Kong-born Euro-Asian American actress Nancy Kwan played a major role in the acceptance of actors of Asian descent in the Western movie scene. Nancy, who wanted to be a ballerina, was spotted by a Hollywood producer, Ray Stark, in her hometown when she was about 20. Despite having no acting experience, the producer sent Nancy to Hollywood and gave her the starting role of a prostitute, Susie Wong, in the East Meets West romance The World of Susie Wong, alongside William Holden 55 years ago.
I'll get your pajamas. You want tops or bottoms tonight?
This is the irrepressible Susie Wong, whose world will soon be yours in this exciting motion picture. A world in which she has to fight just to stay alive. Through.
There's not a chance! Who's in charge? actors can control, I think, the career much more than in the old days, which was controlled by the studio. Today, they can, we get into writing, you can write your own project, you produce your own project, you learn much more, you can executive produce. I find it much more interesting, and I think the young people are very lucky because they have a camera and even an iPhone or whatever, and they pick it up. I mean, in the old days we had a 16 or an 8 millimeter. I had an 8, I remember. And it was much more difficult to handle than today and go out and make a film. And it's very difficult for us because first you don't get that many roles written, because this business is still predominantly white.
After her second box office hit, Flower Drum Song, Nancy received a Golden Globe Award for Most Promising Newcomer, and pictures of her could be seen all over major magazines in the early 60s. But despite such success, Nancy recognized the limited number of parts the industry had to offer Asian actors. So she took on non-Asian and non-traditional roles, and even tried working from the other side of the camera when she found her own production company, Nancy Kwan Films, in the 70s in Hong Kong, while also starting to do more work for TV, guest starring in several TV shows and TV films. Her experience became really diverse, as she led stage plays, narrated many audiobooks, and worked on productions about things she's loved for a long time, such as Tai Chi. When Nancy wasn't acting, she was involved with charity and became a spokesperson for the Asian American Voters Coalition.
America, this country is changing, and we're settling in, more Asians are settling in. We definitely need good representation.
Thank you, Asian Hall of Fame, for the honor. It is fascinating to see the world getting smaller. Now more than ever, the many cultures are merging as never before. How different it was when I was growing up. People were more intolerant of our culture. To be a Eurasian at that time was much more of a challenge in so many ways. Whereas today we have evolved and have a better understanding of each other. I've always been proud of who I am. I come from two cultures. My father was Chinese and my mother was English. And I always felt it gave me a better understanding of human nature. I like to be able to think of ourselves as citizens of the world. And if we learn to put aside our racial and religious prejudices, what a wonderful world it would be. I started in life wanting to be a ballet dancer. And somehow fate had other plans. I hung up my toe shoes and became an actress. That was many years ago. Today, Asian actors are still having a hard time getting substantial roles. I'm often asked by young actors going into the business if there is a successful formula to follow. Unfortunately, there isn't. You have to study hard, be tenacious, and believe in yourself. It's really about commitment. Thank you.